Join me in welcoming Ms. Foltz.
Good morning, everyone. I'm still trying to figure out how Roger took a 20-minute speech didn't come up for air at one time. I will, but he does a great job of kind of painting a broader picture about how our economy is doing and the different effects of it. As we're teeing this up, a little background on myself. Curtis Foltz, I'm the executive director of the Georgia Ports Authority. We are, I'm not a long-term Georgian. I came out of the private sector about 8 years ago and joined the Port Authority. Been in the role that I'm in now about 3.5 years. Bounced around the country, had responsibility kind of overseeing port-related activities throughout Latin America, Asia at one time, Australia, and for Dad, a little bit in Europe, and then a lot of times throughout Latin America. Let me see a show of hands for who here is from Georgia or has lived in Georgia other than right now. Okay. I will tell you candidly that you have a portfolio of port assets second to none in the United States. So when you think about economic development, think about international trade, whether it's automobiles, there will be imported new autos coming out of the Southeast, as Roger said. Quick fun fact, we just passed 750,000 new Mercedes-Benz that were built in Vance, Alabama, shipping out of Brunswick, Georgia, going back to Europe now. Who would have ever predicted something like that would happen 50 years ago? 750,000. But you have a great portfolio of assets. We are charged as the Port Authority, kind of overseeing the port-related assets for the state of Georgia. We have a different structure than really any other port authority in the United States. Most are landlord port authorities. We not only own the assets on behalf of the state, but we also operate them. So we are challenged by our board with a certain entrepreneurial spirit that is not really common in the space that I walk in throughout other states in the U.S. We are not state employees. We're not part of the state's budget system. So we're an authority within the state's ownership structure, but we don't reach into the state's coffers at all. We're responsible for our own health care plan, our own pension plans, payroll, Capex, acquisition of land, anything that's associated with our business. So we truly are run, and the expectations are to operate like a private company. The only delta is that we don't pay taxes. So the state doesn't see a need for us to effectively pay taxes to themselves. I'm going to just touch on a couple of kind of changing trends in the Southeast, talk a little bit about the port, some of our challenges, things that we see affecting international trade both here in Georgia and throughout the Southeast. So, and like I said, I will come up for air during it. Just some quick topics that I'm going to cover. So we are, as I said earlier, as a state authority, we have deep water ports in both Savannah and Brunswick, Georgia. We also have assets that we own down in Brunswick and Columbus, but very small assets. But we have major facilities in Brunswick and in Savannah that cater to really any and everything that you could imagine. So any of you that buy anything at Target, at Walmart, at Home Depot, at Lowe's, at CVS, at Kmart, at IKEA stores, it doesn't matter. Those goods, they're mostly shelved on at least 80% of the product that's shelved in those stores have come from somewhere else other than the United States, and the vast majority have come through our ports. Also, any of the products that are produced in Georgia. Roger talked about the kale and clay. It's one of the largest commodities we ship through our ports. All the forest products out of the state of Georgia. Ag products now becoming big. Poultry, #1 poultry producer in the United States. We ship over 1,000 loads of containers of frozen poultry every week through our ports. And the vast majority of it are chicken feet, or as they refer to them in China, chicken paws. Most of them are going back to China. So a broad array of products. If you want to get to international markets, we have to have efficient ports. And it's not really about the coast, but it's about all those different destinations of consumers. I tell people all the time, you might as well call us Port Atlanta than we're not Port Savannah Port Authority or the Brunswick Port Authority, but we truly are kind of a broad statewide really to service needs in the southeast, but as we're a state authority, we're called the Georgia Ports Authority. Fairly large statewide impact. This is done by the Terry College of Business, puts this out every 2 years, so it's not really commissioned by the Georgia Ports Authority. So what they say, and this is now dated by about 2 years, we've had significant growth since then, about 352,000 jobs throughout the state of Georgia are tied to port-related activity. About $18.5 billion of personal income for Georgians every year are associated with activity that's moving through our port. Real quickly, our ports are growing. Roger talked about kind of pre-recession and post-recession. Our industry was hit extremely hard by the recession that kicked in 08 and 09. All I will tell you is that by 2010, we were already back. The ports were at pre-recession levels. So we were above that in 10 and have had record years ever since. Last year was another record year for us. Our industry in the United States is still not back at pre-recession levels. And these are some of the statistics. We shipped 637,000 automobiles through our ports. So both import and export. Down in Brunswick, you get a lot of headlines. It's the #1 port in the nation now for importing new automobiles. So any brand basically coming through, with the exception of the Japanese, but the Korean brands, all European brands, extremely strong. One of the things that we're very proud of is that our ports have gained market share and improved on their attractiveness more than any other port in the nation over the last 10 years. And that's something that, again, we at the state are very, very proud of. And it's all about economic development. Because as we grow, it's not growing through machinery that's moving these containers or assembly lines. People are loading and unloading ships, truckers, railroads are delivering goods, warehouses are loading and unloading containers. So for the last 10 years, if you look at the decade, our port in Savannah, container port, has been the fastest growing port in the country by a factor of 2x plus. So our compounded annual growth rate has been 8.4%. Some of that's been our success at attracting a bigger piece of the pie, market share gain, but there's also been that trend, again, that Roger talked to, about continued demographic shift and manufacturing shift to the Southeast. The Southeast is the fastest growing demographic region. The Southeast represents about 44% of the U.S. population now. And the East Coast that we serve, or the eastern third of the United States, has about 70% of the U.S. population. So that's what we're building our ports, and kind of this gateway for commerce to serve. There's the population base. This, if you looked at, when you look at our ports in Georgia, our marketing efforts, our efforts to improve the infrastructure, it's to reach the shaded regions that you see on the map behind me. I'm too busy, I won't go through that. I think one of the other interesting data points that most people don't recognize is in the U.S., where our import to export imbalance is about 2/3 to 1/3 in a normal economy. It's somewhat upside down now because of the recession. Not quite upside down, but normally it's 2/3 to 1/3 imports to exports. We all know the delta on imbalance of trade. Well, through our ports and through our container port in particular, which is the lion's share of what we do, we are export dominant. So we actually export more than we import. So when you think about, again, the commodities coming out of the Southeast, even though we are known for all the retail that we've attracted with the distribution centers in our region, we're exporting more products than we're importing. So there's a lot of talk now across the economic recovery about the need to be very bullish on exports and to support that activity. And we build our infrastructure, we build our facilities and our processes to help continue to grow this export market. We'll spend about $1.4 billion in Capex over the next 10 years. Our cash flow on an annual basis is about $120 million. So we are in a fairly strong position. Again, we're not reaching out to the state. They expect us to be self-funding. We have about $1.5 billion under roof in assets. And so to maintain those assets, it requires about a 10% reinvestment every year. So we're spending about $120 million today. in reinvesting in the entire port infrastructure to support the state of Georgia. That busy slide, again, this is for you. This is where we're going to be spending our money. This is kind of an exciting, this is the start of something that is a much stronger foundation on servicing the infrastructure in the Southeast. A recent announcement in Cordele, Georgia. It's a small play about what we're doing as a port. Don't think about us on the coast, but about creating a network and infrastructure to reach inland to all the different ports in Georgia to service trade and commerce more efficiently. So as we think about economic development, we think about opportunities for growth. And this is what the broader context of that Cordele announcement that we made recently. We've segmented the Southeast into 6 very key areas that we're referring to Network Georgia. And so as a port, in each of these regions, and they have their own unique characters, we're building what we consider to be and targeting a premier transportation network to access to or from each of those zones into the ports. And the Cordele project was the first of those in Zone 1. And I'm hoping that we'll be announcing the next one in Zone 2 there in the very near future. All right, so what's changing? Panama Canal has got probably one of the largest changes that we're going to see in affecting the Southeast in many, many years. Those locks are going to go. The Panama Canal, if you don't know, the original locks became operational in 1914. They haven't changed since 1914. Well, the 100th year anniversary, it's a lengthy story, but their intention on the 100th year anniversary on August of 2014 next year was to open the locks, expand the locks. It's a $2 billion expansion, but effectively allow them to triple the size of ships to service that commerce, and then bring better economies of scale for trade in regards to us between Asia and the Southeast and East Coast of the United States, effectively making us more competitive. Big change. Larger ships, deeper ships. Unfortunately, it's going to affect us. The canal today is a speed bump for us because its restrictions help the limited depth of the Savannah River. But that goes away once these new locks come into play. And Roger touched on something I'll hit shortly. And I'm going to speed this up because I've got about 3 minutes to go. Trade in the Southeast, because of the expansion of the Panama Canal, we think is only going north. Again, you're going to have better economies of scale coming into play, and we're making investments to ensure that we can take advantage of it. The biggest restriction is our river. The Savannah River that accesses our ports is not only the shallowest port in the Southeast or the East Coast of the United States, it's the shallowest major port in the world. Folks, ships aren't going to, the world isn't going to work around Savannah. So when you hear things and see stories about the importance of the deepening of the Savannah River, it has to happen. We don't get half of those ships, half of that ship. The ship goes somewhere else. State of Georgia set aside $232 million. It's a federal project. It's a state project. It was done about 10 years ago. It's brought up to the federal government, but we are approaching the final approval. We need about $400 million from the feds. Their final okay, and then we'll be kind of moving forward. Time and we're growth. I think the other big change that we've seen is as goods continue to be produced in Asia for consumption in the United States, for a while most of those went through the West Coast, and in 2002, because of a dynamic, those started shifting through the Panama Canal. And now that the ships have gotten too large to come through the Panama Canal, those goods are still coming from Asia, but shifted down to Southeast Asia. Ships are coming around the world the other direction through the Suez Canal. So every week now, we get in Savannah 11 ships coming through the Suez Canal, originating in Asia, bringing consumer products through our ports. So a big shift on the Suez routes. And with that, thank you very much. I look forward to your questions.
Finally, Kathy Officers will talk a little bit about export trends in the Southeast.
If we have time, I want want to show y'all a video at the end, and I promise it's not like vacation videos. It's a really good video, but in a nutshell, we'll tell you what we do with small companies and the impact that we have on small companies and why they use us. But I am not Kathy Foltz, I'm Kathy Oxford. I've been with the department about, 15 years, 8 of those years in international trade, so I think I know a little something about, my card says 40, but that's not how old I am, that's how old some of our offices are. So we've been doing this a little while, we know a little something about helping companies in international trade. What I'm going to do today is try to share with you some of the trends similar to what some of these gentlemen have said. But I'm going to dig down a little bit more. For those of you that don't know what the Department of Economic Development is, it's a state agency, of course, but we are the marketing arm of the state of Georgia. We spend our time promoting Georgia. We have project managers that bring companies to Georgia. We have project managers out in the state that help existing industries expand and grow. The mission of our department is to grow and create jobs. So international trade and export is a tool in that economic development toolkit. It is part that I've been involved with for 8 years, and our goal is to help small companies. We don't work with Kias as much. We don't work with Gulfstream. We don't work with the big companies as much because they don't need us as much, as you can imagine. We work with a small company. When I say small, I'm not talking about SBA's 500 employees small. I'm talking 50 and under, probably more than, and some 10 and under. We work with companies who have dabbled in exporting. We want to get that from their export sales from, once every 6 months to more of a 20% of their sales, because when that happens, that means they start hiring people. Again, we're going back to our mission was to create and maintain jobs. So we're trying to get them to the point where they need to hire people and keep that. I don't talk about all that. I get excited. I might not come over here either. So anyway, let's go. This is I'm over 40, so I can't read anything up close or far away. So if I mess up something, that's okay. We'll get over it. This is going to be on our website, or you guys going to make this available to everybody, because we do have some busy slides, and I don't want to have to make y'all worry about having to read them. I'll try to tell you basically what they're trying to say. Before we get into the Southeast, I want to share a little bit about Georgia's international snapshot. For those of you that don't know, there's about 70 countries represented in Atlanta in some way, with a consulate office or honorary consul office, financial chambers of commerce. We're really flooded with a lot of international folks in Georgia, and we love that. They should be here. Our world-class infrastructure, as has been mentioned, we have the busiest airports and a pretty good-sized port system, which we've just heard about. And then, for those of you that were from Georgia, in Georgia history, do you remember Georgia's history was based on logistics and moving people, goods, and services from the port to the highways to the rail, Milledgeville. What was the state capital called for a while? It was Terminus. Okay, that has something to do with transportation. So we get it, and that's why we take advantage of the assets that we have, so that we can grow that and stay prosperous. Why export? Yeah. The professor talked on a theoretical stage about why export, but we get down and dirty with communities about why exporting should be part of your economic development tool. It's because we know from research that it creates twice as many jobs. We just talked about all the jobs at the port. That's a it's not a handful. That's a lot of jobs, but it's not all about the port. It's about the jobs that are created in trucking throughout the rest of the community, the customs, the people that deal and lawyers that deal with ITAR and all of that we talked about in the last session. There's a whole lot of jobs that are created, and these are pretty good paying jobs as well because of the skill sets that are required. Generally, and I'm talking small businesses again, small businesses tend to grow faster when they're exporting because they're able to maintain a little more balance. So we had a horrible year in 2008, 2009. Every country in the world did not have a horrible economy. So in a minute, I'll show you a little bit about how our exports grew and went back up to the 2008 levels as well. We know that companies grow faster and they're a little more stable. They're able to get out of those if they can afford to stay in it. They can usually come out of it better. Benefits for business, obviously. If you've got a seasonal business, you've got some parts of the world that are in the summer when you're in the winter and vice versa. So there's lots of really good reasons why to export. And this is what we preach every day to communities and to our small companies who say, I'm too small to export. Well, honestly, you are never too small to export. Some of it, I think it was derived from eBay, of all things. People selling stuff and they're shipping them across the world to people that they've never met before. So that's a simplistic version, but that's exactly, some of the reasons that some people got into exporting as trading companies too. All right, 2012, record year is going to be set a lot because we do this a lot. We only had a dip in 2008, is that right? Is that what that says? Either way, that 1 year was when everybody had a dip. But the previous 2 years, this is a 6-year span. It's even the next year, we exceeded what we had done the previous year. Let me tell you, I was here. I was at the department, and I know our phones started ringing because companies were trying to diversify and make it through. They were trying to make it through. And the only way to do that was to try to sell internationally. They didn't know what they were doing, but they were calling and saying, I need your help. So that is, it's just a slide that kind of brings it home for us. We were busy and we continue to stay busy. As Curtis said, poultry is our number one. Georgia is the number one exporter of poultry in the nation. We're also the number one exporter of cotton, paper, some of those things, kale and peanuts, carpet. We're number one in a lot of things that we can be proud of. Did it change? Yes, I didn't change. Our imports have the same. You can see the bar is the same. You don't have to know what the numbers are, but it's the same thing. We kind of, on the import side, Georgia does retain some of those imports. I would say the difference between my numbers and Curtis's numbers is Curtis's numbers, the port brings stuff into Georgia, but they go all over. What these numbers are based on is U.S. Census numbers, so they are Georgia specific. The items that we import and the numbers are all based on items that came to Georgia. It was the destination. And on the reverse side, the export side, those numbers were just Georgia products leaving from Georgia. I'm sorry, I meant to mention that before. His are a little more broad. Most of Georgia's imports and exports are from the same countries. Where we have offices. And for those of you that don't know, Georgia has and supports 10 international offices in major markets of the world, which I'll show you. But most of that's why we have offices there. Something special about that? No, it's because we do a lot of trade, and that's where we need the most support. And not every state in the union has 10 offices. There's a few states that have a good many, but I'm pretty proud of the fact that Georgia has 10 offices. We take it for granted sometimes, but honestly, y'all, that's a special turn on your investment as a taxpayer that I can think of, because we actually do help your bottom line from a company standpoint. If you're making sales that you wouldn't have otherwise made because of the help with our international offices, I can't think of anything. And that was free, by the way, other than your taxes. Other than paying your taxes, you get our services for free. Okay, this is my version of the Southeast. We didn't include Texas and Louisiana and some others because the economies are very different, like you mentioned, they're very oil-based, and that's really not us. So I think our 7 states is going to be, you'll see, is similar. We have similar economies in a lot of ways. So that's where these numbers are going to come. Exports by, oops, here we go. So you can't read. That's okay. Of the 7 states, Georgia kind of lags behind Florida. But if you could read most of the numbers, the numbers go down pretty fast from the other states. So I think Georgia and Florida do a pretty good bit of exporting. Every one of them, though, has had an increase in exports. I think Alabama probably had the biggest one in the last year, and that could possibly be related to some cars that go out of the ports on the Georgia Alabama line. The next one is the same sort of bar. We are doing pretty well as a Southeast. The orange line at the bottom is the Southeast. The green line is the U.S. We're steadily increasing. I think it should look. Okay, this is busy as well, but if you like colors, this is good. The top colors are our major, that's where the bulk of our exports, those countries, Canada, Mexico, China, and Germany. Every year when the export numbers come out, you flip-flop a few countries, but they're still basically those, give or take, here and there. The green colors are, you can't read, Brazil, Switzerland, Japan, UK, Venezuela, and Colombia. The interesting on that slide, Colombia, there's a new free trade agreement, so I think those numbers are going to go up significantly because of the free trade agreement. We have an office in Chile, which is pretty much right next door, and we do pretty well in Chile, but I think Colombia, I think we'll start to see that number go up. These are the different years and the different products that go out, and you'll see they change spots, change ranks, basically, every year, but they still pretty much stay the same between the, what Roger had mentioned about the capital goods, the vehicles, pharmaceutical, medical. I personally work with the medical sector, so I'm going to hope that bounces up really high quickly. And chemicals, where is it? Some of those, but they all basically, there's aerospace products and parts. Those are big in the Southeast, obviously. Okay. Imports by individual state. Georgia does pretty much lead the 7 states on the import side. We do not have a balance of trade where that's concerned. I think a lot of that stuff coming through the port is exactly what he said, is staying here and getting in our retail stores. I'm okay with that, as long as everything continues on the export side as well. Again, if you take a look, Florida's right behind us. I guess we've lost spots every other year maybe. But everybody, again, is on the increase on the import side. Some of those imports are not retail, but they are raw materials. They're supplies for a manufacturing-based economy like ours. So we do have that. 5-year import analysis, very similar to the export analysis, with the bar. Okay. Import market, same company, same countries in the orange as we were in the export, so they're excellent trading partners. The UK, I don't know what drove some of those declines, probably exchanges or currency rates, things like that. That's probably some of what's driven that. The only difference in the products that we have imported that I noticed particularly was the apparel. We import more apparel certainly than export, so that's really the one that is different about that chart. Again, I couldn't be here today without telling you some of the things that we do with companies. We do a lot of events. We promote companies. We try to get companies into these world markets. These are a sampling of some upcoming events that we're planning to go to. One that I'm going to in November is called Medica. I'm taking some, this is the 6th year we've gone to this trade show. It's in Germany. It's a huge show. That is an example. We're going to do a trade mission in Israel in March, and that's a multi-sector show. And what we do is for a trade show, we typically buy the space in the trade show, and then we resell it to the company for a discounted rate, gets them into the show, gets them in that market, gets them used to it. Hopefully, if they go the next year, that's great, but eventually we want them to be big enough and sell enough so that they can have their own space and really benefit the process. We can't support them every year to be in a trade show. The cost to them is basically their travel, a couple $1,000s to get in the show for this to be a co-exhibitor, but that space generally would have cost them $40,000 or $50,000 easily. So very few small companies can afford to do that. They have to justify that, so we help them do that for as long as we can. And so that's why we do these events. We put them in front of those international buyers and distributors. But that's a sampling of some of the different sectors of events that we'll have. This is our team. Kathy Foltz is there in the red, and there are 7 trade managers. We all have different sectors of focus, and we all have different territories of the state. The sector of focus is all over the state, so I work with any medical company all over the state. I also work with the Savannah area for anything non-sector, just sort of general manufacturing. All of us have those kinds of territories, so there's a good many of us working really hard to do this. I'm happy to do it, and since I have maybe enough time for the video, we'll try it. And is it supposed to start on Monday? Oh, okay.
The video is not on YouTube anymore.
Go to Georgia.org. Can you go to Georgia.org? Can you do that? This is really good. The video is about 3 companies that went with us on various missions or trade shows or whatever, and they are all 3 very small companies. And they tell you what the benefit to working with some of our services. Okay, it's a little propaganda, I get it, but it does give you an idea of what these companies are capable of if they get just a little bit of support, a little bit of help. On the video library, where is it? There we go, video library. Is it on the internet? On the what?
He went back and scrolls through.
Oh, main page? Yeah. Well, is that video on the internet? Probably. Here it is.
The support we've gotten from Georgia Department of Economic Development is tremendous in the fact that they're an extension of our sales force. And I can happily tell you that that is a true statement. It happens. They're bringing opportunities to us around the globe.
The Georgia Department of Economic Development's trade team has helped us grow over 2,700% in our Mexican market and 120% globally.
There's global environments, global demand, global need. And the Georgia Department of Economic Development is great at helping you understand those rules and regulations. They had a trade rep in Brazil, helped us find the right partners inside the country, held our hand during the entire process, and took us from an unknown company that the Brazilians had heard about to closing our first international $1 million deal.
That's going to connect into this pretty soon.
We've done systems or projects in 15 different countries with the Georgia Department of Economic Development. The relationships that they arrange meetings with, we were able to get to a much higher level.
As opposed to Googling Brazil and trying to figure out the rules myself, I can get a Brazilian who lives there, understands the rules, knows the people in the place, can walk us through it, and then we can worry about the business and the technology and not all those other things that get wrapped around it.
I spent years, up to 10, traveling internationally, 200 nights a year, trying to develop our distributors. And after meeting the trade team, we learned that they would actually do this for us. They have someone in the country we're heading towards. So they give us on-the-ground feedback, what to wear, how to act, how long a meeting should take, what materials they expect to see, presentations, what they should be like, how detailed. Different countries are very different in the way they expect you to show up. And the trade team helps prepare us.
One of those startling changes that's happened as a company is only 5% of our business was exports. We grew that to 40%.
Being this close to the Georgia port, Savannah, one of the largest in the world now, it's core to our success. A lot of our raw materials come in that way, and a lot of our exports go out. We use the international airport, we use the ports and the highways, and being this close to three sources like that keeps our costs down and makes us more efficient and economical in terms of manufacturing.
Georgia's a great place to do business. We have a very business-friendly environment, a business-friendly government, a business-friendly society.
Businesses that are located in Georgia now, don't wait as long as we did to reach out. The Georgia Department of Economic Development is really a resource for you to use. Just see what's there. And for businesses that aren't in Georgia, come join us. It's a great place to do business.
Yay. That's my presentation, but I just wanted to say that all three of those are very small companies. The first guy that spoke, when I first met him, he only had about 4 or 5 employees. I think he's up to 30 now. So I mean, it really makes a difference on the small business.